Welcome back. Alright, I'm going to get right into it. Today we're talking about Brago's draw, creatures, etc. Things he can do. But first, the draw. Sensei's Divining Top is a staple in most commander decks, and in no way is that, untrue here. This card is pretty useful when you got a card like Trinket Mage. Trinket Mage with Brago, you can just keep using this as a draw effect. But also, it, can set up your draw. And speaking of setting up your draw, we have its cousin, older brother, Scroll Rack. Pretty much better if you have a hand of 4 cards or more. Not to mention that you can untap this with Brago because of that little artifact thing I was talking about earlier. Next, we have Jace Beleren, Baby Jace. Now, Baby Jace is another one of those things I need to point out about Brago, is he can reset Planeswalkers here, reset their loyalty, reset their ability, so you can use them again. Jace can draw me 2 cards a turn. Now, I've considered dropping him for Seagate Oracle, because a lot of the combos with Brago involve sticking around in the combat step for a while, and Jace provides no benefit there. But, as you can see, I have a soft spot for this Jace. Next, not Consecrated Sphinx, Sphinx of Uthen. Sphinx of Uthen is Factor Fiction when he comes into play, and Brago can make that Factor Fiction go on and on and on and on. Additionally, he's 7 mana for a 5/6 flying beater, and he's not too bad. There are times when he shines really well, and then times where he's, just good. He's not the best, but he's definitely not the worst. Blue Sun Zenith. This is a combo piece. It can finish someone off if I generate infinite mana, which you can do in this deck, using the combos I'll show you later. But Blue Sun Zenith I've usually used to draw myself more cards when I'm running behind. But it does work really well as your finisher. Then we have Mystic Remora. Mystic Remora is a ridiculous card on its own. 1 mana that says whenever your opponent plays a non-creature spell, you may have them pay 4 mana or you may draw a card. So they either have to pay 4 mana or you're going to be drawing cards a lot. Now it does have a cumulative upkeep of 1, but Brago resets that to 1 every time. So you're paying 1 mana for the potential of drawing more cards every turn. At the worst, I've made this a continuous ancestral recall, and there's really nothing bad about that. Consecrated Sphinx. I think I mentioned him earlier in a little slip of the tongue. Sorry, spoiler alert, he's in the deck, he's great, I love him. He draws you a buttload of cards. Now, this isn't necessarily card draw that we're getting into now. These are tutors, but I still feel like they're in card advantage, so I keep them with this set of cards. So, land tax. Well, like I've said, this is a stacks deck. If I did manage to blow up someone's lands and they did manage to catch up further ahead than I was expecting, this can really round me out. I don't need many lands to make this deck work, but this can definitely help with draw, thinning the deck, etc., etc. Land tax is great. You should try it. Trinket Mage. A repeatable tutor for all my artifacts that are of a mana cost of 1 or less. Repeatable with Brago, that is. This little guy is a game winner in a more subtle way. He usually goes unanswered. People usually don't think they need to kill a 2/2 when they think his job is done, but he is quite surprisingly powerful in this deck. Enlightened Tutor, enchantment, artifact, put it on top. Not bad. Mystical Tutor, instant, sorcery, tutor it, put it on top. Still not bad. Alright, now we're going to talk about removal. And I'm going to have to make this quick because we're running out of time. So, removal. We have Meekstone. Meekstone isn't necessarily removal, but it does lock out some really nasty creatures I don't want to stick around. Active Authority. With Brago, I can continually exile artifacts and enchantments over and over and over until the people thoroughly rage. Nevermaker. Nevermaker can put non-land permanents on top of their owner's library repeatedly with Brago. This can screw up people's draw. This can just mess them up. Pretty devastating for a 4-mana 2/3. Plus he flies and he can attack. Duplicant. When it comes into play, exile a creature and it gets the power and toughness of that creature and the creature types. Basically, I just use this to repeatedly exile over and over and over. It's not bad. Angel of Serenity. Exiles 3 creatures in the graveyard or on the battlefield, and they return to their owner's hands when Angel of Serenity dies. She is phenomenal. One of my favorite ways to use her in a surprising and quirky way is grabbing creatures in my graveyard and returning them to my hand and then exiling other people's creatures. It's ridiculous. Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, the 1-mana exile creatures, not bad. Reality Acid works like a Vindicate in this deck, because it says when it leaves play, the permanent it's enchanting is sacrificed. Brago flickers it out, it comes back in and puts itself on something else. This also mentions that it's just permanent, so you can use it on lands. Detention Sphere. The only Oblivion Ring Detention Sphere in the deck. I tried Oblivion Ring, I thought it would work, didn't like it. Detention Sphere I do like because it can get rid of, tokens. It can deal with commanders pretty well, but it's really made in here to get rid of a token strategy and continuously get rid of bigger and bigger threats. And then lastly, Karn as my last spot removal. Karn, like I mentioned before, Planeswalkers have a huge benefit in a Brago deck. Even if Karn's usually just alternating between his +4 at the beginning of turn and then -3 on the end of your turn, it's still removing a permanent each time and getting rid of a card in someone's hand. Now for mass removal, we've got Wrath of God, destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. Pretty solid. Armageddon, destroy all lands. I did mention this is a stacks sort of deck. It really punishes people that try to go into a big mana base. And it's quite a fun card to play, Armageddon and then Cyclonic Rift. I have had people attempt to attack me, slap me for that. And lastly, Cataclysm. Cataclysm is each player chooses a creature, artifact, enchantment, and land they control and then sacrifices the rest of their permanents. With Brago, I really don't care how few permanents I have. Cataclysm usually can win me the game, though. Especially when I have this plus Detention Sphere. It's crazy. Now, we're going to get into cards. I really don't know where to put these, but they're really good. I just don't know what I categorize them as. And to start, we have Snapcaster Mage. He can grab spells back at instant speed, and then grab them back at sorcery speed over and over with Brago. Not bad. Clever Impersonator. The perfect clone for a Brago deck. This guy can copy any permanent and continually jump between what he's copying so long as you have Brago around. Similarly, we have Phyrexian Metamorph, the artifact variant that can only copy artifacts and creatures, however. Still extremely good. And I do often start putting him on a mana rock and then jump onto someone's Blightsteel Colossus, for example. And for that Blightsteel Colossus, we have Treachery. What's better than ramping and stealing a creature? Not much. This is stupid. And with Brago, it's even worse, because you can untap 5 lands every time you flicker. And lastly, Sun Titan. I guess he's a recursion guy, but I don't really have a strong recursion theme in this deck. Sun Titan will definitely do a lot of heavy lifting. Being able to return up to 2 permanents every turn, not bad. And lastly, the last part of this deck that I'm going to just go ahead and get it over with right now is the combos and stacks and nonsense there. This is still an evolving stacks deck, so we really only have Winter Orb to fill that out there. With Brago, again, I don't really care too much about my mana base because it's pretty solid regardless, and slowing people down is always good. Then we have Strionic Resonator, also known as the combo lord of the deck. I don't like Strionic Resonator that much, but with Sol Ring or any of the artifacts that can tap for 2 or more. This will result in infinite flickering with Brago. You hit them, you get the flicker on the stack. In response to it, you tap this and copy that trigger. Don't really worry too much about the first one on the stack. Worry about the one that's coming up. Flicker that out. Flicker out the rock that you used to flicker that. And you can keep doing that and get all your infinite ETBs. It's pretty silly. Phantasmal Image. I mentioned I do have an infinite mana combo in this deck. And it's Phantasmal Image and Palinchron. Palinchron, Phantasmal Image. I don't think I really need to explain that. And then the last infinite combo is Archaeomancer, who does really well in the deck on her own, and Time Warp. And that results in infinite turns if Brago can't be blocked, which, as you could guess, can win you the game. Now, that is my Brago King Eternal EDH deck. If you liked it, you can check out the deck list in the links below, and you have yourself a great day now.